Well, with the children, I got invited to a fundraiser for children with cancer. A friend was working with the organizer. So I took my brand new tappy bear, who's a bear, stuffed bear with the tapping points on his body, and I got to work with 5 children. And I think I was probably hooked from the moment I worked with the first one, to see her smile and the way she could just relax when we were doing the tapping. I was introduced to the head oncologist at that event, and we sat and had a conversation.
Can you give us some examples how you can work with the children with cancer?
Yes. Which one? I have so many.
Please tell us several.
I will talk about Javier. He's one of the children who's focused in the book, The Dragon with Flames of Love. And Javier, his defenses had dropped off. He had had an appendicitis, and after that, his immune system didn't quite kick back up. And so he's really depressed because he couldn't continue with his treatments. And we started to do some tapping, and we were sitting down, and we were tapping about his defenses being slow like a turtle, and they just weren't very helpful, and how he didn't like it. And then I asked him what he would like it to be, and he wanted to be fast and strong like a cheetah. So we started tapping about his defenses being slow, changing them to being fast and strong. And it was really amazing because we tapped for maybe 15, 20 minutes. It was a Thursday afternoon. He went home for the weekend. He came back in on Monday, and he was so excited when he saw me because he could have his chemo treatment because his defenses had come up. And I started asking his mother, and I started asking the oncologist, and said, well, did you change any treatment or anything? And they said, no, he was just supposed to go home and rest and eat. But his whole demeanor was different. His attitude was different. And because he was feeling happier and had faith and had a different image of what his defense system could be, his body responded. Okay? And so that was just really lovely to be able to work with him in that way. Okay?
Oh, so inspiring. I know because I told you I had cancer. So after some time you are afraid of needles, and even the doctor, you don't want to see the doctor. How can EFT help with all those fears and anxiety and pain?
Yes. It helps on many levels. Okay, on the scientific level, it's actually lowering cortisol in the body, which is a stress hormone. And when you have high levels of cortisol, it actually lowers your immune system. So there's one part. So when you're doing the tapping, your body relaxes, which is why many people start yawning when they're doing EFT. Their body is releasing the stress hormones and allowing the regenerative hormones to now kick in and do their job. So that's one part. There's a physiological, physical part to doing the tapping that is helping the body. The other aspect is when you work on fears, you're paying attention to where the fear is and releasing it. Okay? So by releasing the fear of going to the hospital, choosing to be okay wherever you are, I tap with them about their fears, sometimes in words, sometimes in images. And I asked him, I said, well, what happened to your fear? How's your fear? He goes, oh, no, it went away. So for him and for children and even for adults, we can use symbols to represent their fears or anxieties of needles, of a treatment, etc., and then remove them. The other thing that happens, and I've seen this over and over again, is when I have the opportunity to actually tap when the nurse is putting in the IV. Okay? The child starts to relax. We've got the physiological part, making them relax. And with one girl, I was joking about the fact that, well, she didn't need a thin little vein. She needed a big fat one. And that would just come up to the surface. And as we tapped, a vein actually came up.
How about the parents? How EFT can help, because there is no bigger pain than seeing a child sick, or in some cases you just lose the child.
Exactly. I find EFT is absolutely important for parents. And I know the parents want to focus on their child first. They always want to focus on their child first. But I keep telling them that they need to focus on themselves first, because if they're not calm, if they're not at peace, if they're not in a good place to help their child feels it. Their child knows when they're upset. Care of themselves, they get a cold, which then affects their child and any other child that's nearby, which is detrimental for everybody who has a lowered immune system. And then I work with them on the underlying fears, so afraid.
And even though I am so afraid.
And I feel so helpless.
And I feel so helpless.
I choose to feel better.
I choose to feel better.
So that I can help my child.
So I can help my child.
Okay, let's go to the eyebrow. Okay. All this fear and anxiety.
All this fear and anxiety.
In my whole body.
In my whole body.
And then side of the eye. All the fear and anxiety.
All the fear and anxiety.
I am so worried.
I am so worried.
Underneath the eye. And I am so sad.
And I am so sad.
My child is ill.
My child is ill.
And I don't know what to do.
And I don't know what to do.
And underneath the nose. All this fear.
All this fear.
And all this worry.
And all this worry.
All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
It isn't helping me.
It isn't helping me.
Or my child.
Or my child.
Okay. And underneath the lips. All this fear and anxiety.
All this fear and anxiety.
It's real.
It's real.
I feel it.
I feel it.
Very strongly.
Very strongly.
In the collarbone. But I can choose to let some of that fear go.
But I can choose to let some of that fear go.
It will be more helpful to my child.
It will be more helpful to my child.
If I'm calm and relaxed.
If I am calm and relaxed.
And looking for solutions.
And looking for solutions.
Okay, let's tap underneath the arm. Okay. All this fear and anxiety.
All this fear and anxiety.
It gets in the way.
It gets in the way.
Of letting me really love and take care of my child.
Of letting me really love and taking care of my child.
Okay, let's do the wrist point. I would rather focus on loving my child.
I would rather focus on loving my child.
Than being afraid.
Than being afraid.
And it'd be much more productive.
Would be much more productive.
Okay, then top of the head. Because my child needs my love right now.
Because my child needs my love right now.
And it needs my peace of mind.
And needs so much calmer and amazing. Deborah, we have spoken before, and you told me that EFT might help a person to be healthier.
Yes.
And can you comment on that?
Yes. A little bit about why EFT helps us be healthier is this aspect of speaking to the fear center in our brain. Okay? We have two little organs about the size of an almond, and they're our fear center that say, panic, alert, fear. Well,
Run.
So run, fight, or freeze. And those messages that the amygdala receives sends another message to another part of the brain saying produce stress hormones which you need to fight or run or to freeze. But those same hormones lower our immune system. They lower our defenses. So then that's lowering your chance of feeling better. So by doing the tapping, it sends a message and says, wait, relax. Let's get centered. Let's figure out what's going on first. And then it sends a message to say, stop producing so many stress hormones, which then allows the body to create all the regenerative hormones. And that's part of the healing process. So that's on the physiology. The other aspect is by doing the tapping, you can release the fears you feel, the anxiety, the stresses, and that helps the body as well heal and feel better.
Before chemo, or eliminate some fears before the child arrives to the hospital, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know of children who fought with their parents 3, 4, 5 days before they have their appointment because they don't want to go. So you can alleviate much of that. I've taught many children how to do their own tapping. Children 2, 3, 4, 5 years old up to, well, the children in the cancer ward tend to be up to 17. That they can then, by doing the tapping, relax, feel calmer, and even if they have a painful technique, they can prepare themselves for it, of how to relax and accept it, and then afterward tap to release the stress of it in their body. Another way with the children, I would say, oh, do you realize you have magic fingers? And they'd look at me and they'd say, no. I said, do you want to learn how to use them? Yeah. And then I would start tapping and show them how to do the technique. Now, little kids love it. They see me, I come into the hospital and they'll just go, I'm a good girl, or I'm a good boy, and things like that, because they get it. They associate the tapping with me. They associate the tapping with feeling better.
See, they have a choice to feel better, and it's maybe a few choices, and EFT is an amazing one, right? It changes the person immediately. Amazing. Do you have any studies showing that EFT helps children with cancer?
A saliva cortisol test. You do a saliva test before you check the level of the stress hormone, and then you do tapping, and then afterward, I think it's a half an hour and then an hour and a half later, you do a test to check on the levels of the cortisol. They've used this in veterans of war to
lose a child. Can EFT help with the grief, the pain?
Absolutely. I mean, no one wants to lose a child. In my journey working with children with cancer, I have also come to the point that sometimes the journey is not about healing the body. It's actually about leaving the body. And I feel the soul of the body, of the child, content and happy and free. But those of us who stay behind feel this grief, this sadness, and it's very difficult to deal with, especially when it's a child. Children shouldn't pass away before an adult. EFT is very practical in the same way that it's helping reduce the stress hormones. It takes away the harshness and the edge from grieving. Grieving is a process. It's not like you tap once and then your grief is gone. That's not what EFT is for. EFT is to take away the deep sadness and the overall grief so that you can go through the grieving process in a more gentle way.
Called The Dragon with Flames of Love.
Yeah.
Please share with us information about this book.
I'll show you the image of it, okay? The Dragon with Flames of Love came about because of my experiences with the children. And I would come home and I would write up what I did to remember what happened. And then they started becoming articles. And then I realized I really needed to write a book about my experience, that information to help people start out and use a tool that is so incredibly effective.
And we are planning to translate it to Portuguese, right?
Yay! Yes.
We're going to do this for sure. Is it hard to talk to the doctors in the hospital that this is a wonderful technique? How do you do that?
I find it depends. I'm lucky because I have my scientific side, so I share things from a more scientific point of view. But I always share that this technique is complementary to what they're doing, because my goal is not to offend anybody in a hospital. They have a protocol, they have a procedure. the parents or the patient have chosen that path versus an alternative medicine or alternative techniques. It's not my job to tell the medical doctors what to do or not to do. But I can say, look, there's a tool here that helps improve the quality of their lives, that helps them reduce their stress, that helps them relax, which helps them be more compliant with the treatments that they need to take. And that's a benefit to the doctor and to the hospital. Because if you have a child relax, just as an example, and the nurse gets the IV in one poke instead of 2 or 3, you save time, energy, and resources. And stress on the nurse as well as the patient and the family members. So I usually bring it up in that way. Here is something complementary to reduce stress, and it's a tool that the child and the parents can use. I also use the technique with the nurses when I can, with the interns, with the residences, and when the doctors are open to trying it with them. Because EFT is a technique to feel, not explain. Because when you feel the relaxation, you're like, well, that only took a minute or 2 minutes, and I feel a difference. And that's really important.
Amazing. Thank you. Deborah, would you lead us to a round of tapping for a child? Anything you would like to demonstrate?
Well, let's make it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because children are use their imagination more than we do. And they're very visual. So why don't we just do fear, and we'll just make it like a color. Okay?
Great.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So would you like to act as a child?
Yes, I can.
For me and do my echo?
Yes. So
what do we want? They just have cancer, they have a tumor, or they have leukemia or something like that. What would you like to call it?
Let's say cancer, because the
just
talk
cancer
is about EFT and cancer.
Okay. All right. So let's just see what comes up. Okay. All right. So even though I'm ill, the doctors tell me I'm sick. I'm still an amazing kid. And even though I don't feel good. And something's not right. I am an amazing kid. And even though I'm sick. I want to get better. Okay, so let's go up to the eyebrow. There's something in my body that's not okay.
There is something in my body that it's not okay.
It doesn't let me feel good.
It doesn't let me feel good.
Okay. Side of the eye. Something in my body is not okay.
Something in my body is not okay.
I think I need to tell my body to get better.
I think I need to tell my body to get better.
Okay, underneath the eye. I'm going to look at what's not right in my body. There's yellow love.
With all this yellow love.
And the wrist point. So I send yellow love every day.
I send yellow love every day.
So I can heal completely. Top of the head. Because I am an amazing kid. Wonderful. Intelligent. And the most incredible kid in the world.
And
I love myself. So I keep sending myself yellow love. Let's take a deep breath.
This is so inspiring. You are a wizard with words. It's amazing how you come up with so simple and still amazing rounds. Thank you very much.
Well, I like using the colors and the images because children focus on colors and images. And it makes it practical because they don't understand the science of their body. They don't understand the physiology. So let's put it in terms that they can understand. And it makes it easier for the parents to work with them too. Yeah.
And one more question. You use the wrist points. Nobody until now has used it. So would you tell us about this?
Yeah. There's a variety of other points. I also use the liver point that's underneath, but you can't really see it with me sitting here. And I find that if you watch videos of me tapping with the kids, I skip points. And I skip points because if they have a catheter or if they have an IV in their arm, I tap the points that I can. The wrist point is also an easy point to use if you don't have an IV in your hand, because there are a lot of meridians that pass through here. Or if you're lying down and you don't want to lift your arms, it's much easier to do the wrist, kind of, they're lying basically on your lap or on your body. And so it's just a point I throw in at times, and it felt right today, so I used it today.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Deborah, we're ending our time together.
I know.
Because I've been interviewing you for 1 hour. Is it anything I didn't ask you and that you would like to say?
I think I would like to say both to children and to parents, have faith and be open to try things and be proactive and utilize tools. Because I go in and talk with the parents and the children about using EFT. They forget. And I come in, I'm not here to chastise you. I'm here to remind you of things you can do that are proactive to help you get through this in an easier way without suffering so much. So I encourage parents and the children to use these tools and these techniques, because every little drop you put in takes you towards healing, and that's to your benefit. You know, so I want people to trust that this is a journey, and it's a difficult journey, but it's step by step, day by day, and these are things we can do to help make it easier and move towards the healing process that we really want. And so I encourage them tremendously to do this. If they need help, they can always contact me. I do sessions by Skype. I have different materials ready, and utilize what's there. I'm putting this out because I want people to have an easier time with this journey with an illness.
Okay. Thank you. I wish you peace and happiness.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.